The Water Margin is classified as one of the 4 great works of literature known as the Sida Mingzhu, alongside other classics, Romance of the Three Kingdoms and Journey to the West. I can describe to you what this story is with one simple comparison: Robin Hood and his merry men. I know most of you aren't too deep on the lore of Robin Hood, but that's okay, this surface level comparison will suffice for now. Instead of Robin Hood though, our primary protagonist is named Song Jiang. And together with his band of 108 merry men, they fight the corrupt officials who had unjustly persecuted them into becoming outlaws in the first place. So why is this a story that you should care about? First, if you're interested in this channel, it's probably because you have some interest in uncovering the vast and impregnable world of Chinese thought and philosophy. What Churchill said about Russia being a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma is only true for China tenfold, and trying to understand it all from an outsider perspective is like trying to sip the ocean dry. So I've spent around the past 10 years of my life studying Chinese. I spent quite a few years living in China, and I've come to figure out some hacks to get a deeper insight into the Sinosphere. But the biggest hurdle for trying to understand the Sinosphere isn't so much just the language, it's the culture. And to understand the culture, you need to understand the history. But there's so much history, how do you know what to focus on? Well, there are some mediums of expression that have a disproportionate impact on culture, and my first lesson came when discovering The Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Being one of the top 4 Chinese books of all time, I felt that my learning curve was sped up, and using the same logic, getting into The Water Margin seemed like a natural decision considering they shared the same author. Second, and most importantly, there are profound lessons to be learned by observing the character's development throughout the story. I've always believed a good story can change your life, and this book is certainly no exception. Considering this book is about 1,000 pages long with about 150 characters, this video isn't going to have all the contrived details that would be more suited to a video spanning the length of watching 3 Lord of the Rings trilogies in a row. I want to tell you about the story, not skipping over the important themes, but not going into who would win in a fight between Jang Blam and Blim Blam or whatever, and what happened on page 422, line 3.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
So let's get into it. First, the themes. The Water Margin is a wuxia novel. The direct translation of wuxia is martial arts. This is what we say in the West, but this is a relatively poor translation of the true meaning of wuxia. The first character, Wu, you could say means to do battle, but the second, xia, means moral principle. Therefore, wuxia, the martial arts genre of film or literature, is about characters fighting to preserve moral principles. But a disclaimer about this book: 14th century China has a very alien version of societal ethics. Of the band of our jolly merry men protagonists, we have rapists, cannibals, and murderers. Furthermore, seeking justice can extend to a wrongdoer's family, and in the proper Confucian way, the bandits are zealously loyal to the emperor, even if he's a poor leader. Making such a wuxia movie in modern times would be unwatchable. The second theme I want to bring up is what it means to be a hero in this book. In The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the author uses the term Yingxiong, which is a pretty accurate translation of our word hero. But in The Water Margin, the term used is Haohan. Though also translated as hero, the more literal meaning means good guy. For the Haohan, fighting ability is the foundation of the deep mutual respect they have for each other. This in turn leads to deep ties of loyalty, which can take precedence to even their own families. Most importantly, they have a keen desire to use their strength to uphold justice. These Haohan are defined by their behavior, and as long as their behavior meets the code of their Haohan, both law-abiding citizens and criminals can be called Haohan. And it's for this reason Haohan are morally nuanced characters. I want to bring up a short story told at the beginning of the book to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. A character named Nine Dragons Shi, I'm just anglicizing the words just to make them more palatable for the video, so don't freak out. This character is in charge of a rich manor that his father had left him when he had died. All his life, he'd been training in the ways of martial arts, and one day, he gets word that nearby the village on a mountainside, bandits had gathered and were threatening to plunder the village. Taking up the role as the village leader, Nine Dragons trains the village for defense, arms them, and prepares them for battle with the bandits. When the bandits come to raid the village, Nine Dragons does battle with their leader and is able to capture him. He then plans to take him to the sheriff to be prosecuted according to the law. But this captured leader has 2 close friends back on the mountain, who come down unarmed, get on their knees in front of Nine Dragons Shi and tells him, We three are sworn brothers who had promised to live and die together, to share weal and woe, just like the three brothers of the three kingdoms. Since you have captured our brother, it is our duty to be executed along with him." Nine Dragons thought to himself, quote, "What loyalty? If I turn them in and claim the reward, every stout-hearted fellow in the land will scorn me. A tiger doesn't pounce on supine prey, as the old saying goes." He released the brothers and says, "The astute spare the astute, and the brave know the brave." End quote. This is what it means to be a Hao Han. Our protagonist was willing to let violent criminals go who may go off and do more harm, but because they live by the way of strength and are fiercely loyal and express their desire to receive justice for their actions, Nine Dragons Shi consider them to be more or less good guys. By calling the characters Hao Han, the author gives them a positive spin by emphasizing their moral intentions, but at the same time, they can't be called paragons of virtue, as you'll discover in this story. The Water Margin reads like a collection of short stories about individual bandits rather than a novel with a firm narrative in mind, just like the aforementioned story goes. So I'm going to tell the stories of some of the main characters and weave it into the central plot. The first of these Hao Han is a character named Lin Chong. He's arms instructor in the Imperial Army, described as being young, handsome, and respected by his colleagues. Lin Chong's misfortune starts when the spoiled son of a court official tries to forcefully get with his wife. Not being of the same rank, Lin Chong is unable to seek justice for his grievance, and so the harassment continues. After many failed attempts to get with Lin Chong's wife, the perpetrator becomes sick with sadness. His adopted father, Gao Qiu, the primary villain of the story, consoles his spoiled son by plotting to have Lin Chong arrested and executed. Gao Qiu frames Lin Chong, sends him into exile to the city of Sangzhou, where he bribes the guards to kill him on their way. Gao Qiu was a historical figure, as are many of the characters in this story, and is accused of being the kind of corrupt court official who led to the decline of the late Song dynasty. Our main villain has a bizarre come-up in the story. Considered to be an idler and a ruffian in his youth, Gao Qiu was good at one thing, playing football. Working as a retainer for a local noble, Gao Qiu had the opportunity to be invited to play football with the prince, and being so amazed by his football skills, the young prince takes on Gao Qiu as a retainer for himself, and through chance, the young prince would eventually become emperor and would entrust Gao Qiu with a high position of authority. One of the most popular characters of the Water Margin, he's described as being a hot-tempered alcoholic. Lu Zhishen became a fugitive from the law when he tried to save a young woman from a butcher who was badgering her to become his concubine. Lu Zhishen, in a hot-headed rage, confronted the butcher and in the ensuing scuffle, killed him accidentally. The young woman's father arranged for Lu Zhishen to be accepted as an apprentice monk at a Buddhist temple to evade the authorities. The Buddhist abbot foresaw that this uncouth man would one day attain enlightenment, but he couldn't stick to the strict discipline, and after a few months of sobriety, the hot-headed Lu Zhishen went berserk, and after finding some alcohol, he damaged the monastery and beat up his fellow monks in the process. Despite being forgiven, Lu Zhishen does the same thing 3 months later and gets kicked out. Funnily enough, he's just panned off to another monastery like nothing happened. And there, he's given the monotonous task of guarding a vegetable patch. It's at this time, Lu Zhishen encounters Lin Chong before he's arrested. As is typical of the Hao Han in the story, Lin Chong is so impressed with Lu Zhishen's display of martial arts that they go have a few drinks and decide instantly to become sworn brothers.
You from around here?
Yes, I am. You?
No, I'm not.
Where'd you get your blade from?
Oh, this? This is my frost blade. It's fresh from Antarctica. We have unfinished business. Who is he?
Just an old enemy.
Twin Reaper?
No, no!
Bro, what are you doing? You were my best friend.
I literally just met you like 5 minutes ago. I don't know no dreams of yours. I don't know you, nigga.
And tell my son.
What, your son?
When Gao Qiu has Lin Chong arrested, Lu Zhishen tracks him down and saves Lin Chong from being murdered by his captors. Lin Chong, still an honorable and law-abiding citizen, refuses to become an outlaw and asks Lu Zhishen not to get revenge on his would-be murderers and let him continue as a prisoner into exile. Gaucho wasn't finished with Lin Chong though, and once in prison, the jailers were bribed to murder Lin Chong once more, and after a daring escape where he kills his assassins, he finally acquiesces to a life of banditry and heads to Liangshan Marsh. Liangshan Marsh, located in Shandong province, is a wasteland on the frontiers of the empire. Being ringed by mountains and covered in a swampy marsh, the government's control of the area is sparse, so the area becomes a safe haven for outlaws. Lin Chong receives a recommendation to join with the bandit group there, and with no other life left to live, he starts a new life living on the margin, the water margin. As a moral and upright man, Lin Chong played an important role in transforming the bandits from a group of petty, indiscriminating thieves into a group of noble bandits. Chao Gai was a wealthy local landowner who had taken it upon himself to fight injustice and help the needy. His great love in life was befriending Hao Han from all walks of life, aiding them regardless of their circumstances, even if they were on the run from the law. Chao Gai makes his entrance into the story by organizing a Robin Hood-like heist with 6 of his Hao Han allies. Imperial tutor Cai Jing, another villain of the story, is also a corrupt official, and to curry favor with the imperial court, he organized an extravagant gift to be sent to it, a tribute that's ultimately paid for by the citizens of the county. Although they were able to pull the heist off, their identities would be uncovered, and now fugitives of the law, they have no choice but to go to Liangshan Marsh. The leader of the Liangshan bandits was named Wang Lun, and unlike the other heroes of the story, Wang Lun is not a Hao Han. He was a jealous and petty person who didn't take well to Lin Chong's rival and positive influence on the bandits. Perceiving him to be better in every way, Wang Lun was fearful that Lin Chong would take his position as the leader and would scheme behind his back. When Chao Gai and his co-conspirators arrive, Lin Chong and the bandits are honored to be joined by these Hao Han, and they form a close bond.
You were always so kind to me.
Who are you?
Remember me? From earlier?
What's up, bro?
What's up, man? How are you?
Wang Lun was alienated by the blossoming friendships of these Hao Han and attempted to drive away Chao Gai from Liangshan Marsh. Lin Chong, like Chao Gai, loved to be in the company of other great Hao Han and reveled in the brotherhood shared by strong and noble characters. On the other hand, Wang Lun couldn't stand to be in the presence of strong men because it only highlighted his insecurity and weakness. With him driving away Chao Gai, Lin Chong saw this all too clearly. Upset by Wang Lun's behavior, Lin Chong grabbed him and stabbed him to death. Quote Lin Chong, "I used to be at the Imperial Guards, but was exiled and ended up here. Today, these great Hao Han gathered here. That Wang Lun, his heart being so narrow and jealous of others, tried to drive these great men away. That's the reason I killed him, not because I wanted his position. I am not talented enough to defeat the Imperial army and destroy the evil minister surrounding the Emperor. Fortunately, Brother Chao is now here. He values justice, despises riches, is intelligent and brave, so he is admired everywhere." Chao Gai gives his vote of approval for Lin Chong to become the new leader, and thus begins the saga of the bandits of Liangshan Marsh. The noble bandits would spend their days idling in each other's company and enjoying their life as free men, living on their own terms and immersed in the natural beauty of their surroundings. Song Jiang, who would later become the leader of the 108 bandits, is similar in vein to Liu Bei of Romance of the Three Kingdoms. He was the third son of a wealthy local family. He studied Confucianism since childhood, became a local official, and known by reputation as a great Hao Han. He was very filial, keen on martial arts training and helping people in need. When the arresting officers of Chao Gai came to visit Song Jiang's mansion, Song Jiang rushed to inform Chao Gai, and thus Chao Gai would have ample time to escape to Liangshan Marsh without being captured. Chao Gai would continue to correspond with Song Jiang and would even send him a small share of the loot as an expression of gratitude. Although Song Jiang refused the gift, he promised to hold on to it for safekeeping. Quote, "He was always making things easy for people, solving their difficulties, settling differences, saving lives. He provided the indigent with funds for coffins and medicines, gave charity to the poor, assisted in emergencies, helped in cases of hardship." Unfortunately, his good-natured character would bring misfortune upon him. An old woman caring for an orphaned and unmarried girl would pester Songjung to help the poor girl out. Acting as a matchmaker for her own personal gain, the old woman persisted long enough until Songjung, out of pity, decided to take the girl as his concubine. His new concubine, Yen Porshi, and he had no interest in each other, and the pretty young girl would soon find another lover behind Songjung's back. One day, Yen Porshi happened to find a letter from Chao Gai and the money Chao Gai had entrusted to Songjung. Yen Porshi threatened to hand them over to the authorities unless he had the marriage annulled and gave her Chao Gai's loot. Songjung had no problem annulling the marriage, but couldn't give her the gold because it didn't belong to him. Not believing Songjung, the argument escalated, and during Songjung's furious rebuttal, a knife happened to slip out of his pocket. Yen Porshi started screaming aloud that Songjung was trying to kill her and threatened to go to the authorities to accuse him of attempted murder. In a fit of rage, Songjung takes the pocket knife and stabs Yen Porshi to death. This is how Songjung too would be forced to join the bandits of Liangshan Marsh. Now in Liangshan, Songjung receives a message that his father had passed away, and being the filial son that he is, Songjung leaves his Haohan friends and rushes home to grieve for his father despite being a wanted man. It turns out though, this was simply a ruse. His father was still alive, and hearing that his son was about to disgrace his ancestors by becoming a bandit, he feigned his death to bring his son home. Unfortunately, the authorities had successfully tracked down Songjung to the family manor and placed him under arrest. Whilst being escorted into exile, the Liangshan bandits discovered his whereabouts and rescued him. But just as they were about to slay the guards, Songjung pleaded with them to let them go and continue taking him away, just as Lin Chong had once requested. Songjung, quote, "My father told me why he would rather have me face trial. When I was sentenced into exile, he repeatedly counseled me to sacrifice my wishes if it would hurt the family and bring distress to my father in his old age. When he was so clear, how could I disregard his words? If I were to do so, I'd disobey heaven's principles and my father's teachings. If I become unrighteous and unfilial, what is the point of my life? If you won't let me go down the mountain, please kill me instead." Understanding the filial duty of the son to his father, the bandits could understand Songjung's reasoning and bid him farewell. In jail, Songjung meets a prison guard named Li Kuei. Li Kuei is akin to Zheng Fei of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Li Kuei is brutish in nature and often acts impulsively. If left unsupervised, he resorts to violence and antisocial behavior. Seeing Songjung as the greatest Haohan in the land, Li Kuei develops a deep devotion to him and commits himself to being Songjung's sidekick. Maybe with Songjung's guidance, Li Kuei too can follow a righteous path. One day, depressed by his current fate and intoxicated by wine, Songjung writes a scandalous poem on the wall of a restaurant. The poem had rebellious intonations, but it was really just Songjung being drunk and vandalizing on a wall. However, when the local governor read the poem, he had Songjung arrested and extracts a false confession from him under the duress of torture. On the eve of his execution for treason, the Liangshan rebels, aided by Li Kuei, storm the execution site and rescue Songjung. Now branded as a traitor and his ancestors' name tarnished forever, Songjung finally admits defeat and joins the bandits of Liangshan Marsh for good. There are so many characters with their own intricate backstories, but we're gonna leave it for now and get on with the story. Lu Zhishen joins the band of heroes, and now the number of Haohan in Liangshan Marsh has reached 108. With all 108 bandits now at Liangshan, Songjung proposes to perform a week-long ceremony to console the souls of all those who had perished during their many adventures. At the closing of the ceremony, a comet fell down to Earth. The bandits dug where the comet disappeared into the earth and found a stone tablet. On one side of the tablet it said, "Enforce Tao on heaven's behalf and accomplish loyalty and righteousness." On the other side were the list of the names of all 108 bandits, along with the names of their corresponding stars. Thus given the sign of heaven's approval, Songjung suggested a vow for the bandits. quote, "Since we, the stars of heavenly spirits and earthly fiends, have gathered, we must make a vow before heaven to unite in life and death, sharing dangers and misfortune, to strive together in order to defend the country and preserve peace for the people." The vow states, "There are now 108 of us, which is the number ordained by heaven and pleasing to the human mind. From this day on, if any of us holds unrighteous thought and harms our goal, pray heaven and earth scourge him, gods destroy him, so that he would never again be reincarnated in human form and remain forever buried in the pit. We wish to keep righteousness and loyalty in our hearts together and serve the country together, and vow to enforce Tao on heaven's behalf, defend our borders and secure our people's safety." End quote. The bandits swore their eternal unity to each other and affirmed their brotherly bond by drinking a cup of all their blood mixed together. Heaven's will was that the bandits be loyal and righteous. Being loyal meant to serve the emperor. And despite all that the bandits had individually and collectively gone through, Song Jiang stated his goal for the bandits was for them to be pardoned for their crimes and honorably serve the emperor. Being too difficult to root out, it was suggested to the emperor to pardon the Liangshan bandits and officially enlist them to defend the border region where they were located. It was recommended to the emperor to win over the bandits' loyalty with wine and a letter of amnesty. When the official envoy arrived at the marsh, it was noted how rudely they acted towards the Hao Han. It was clear the envoys regarded them as scum who would be used simply as pawns for the wishes of the empire. When the letter of amnesty was read aloud, the wording made that clear. Quote the letter. "Recently, Song Jiang and his gang had been roistering around the wooded hills, pillaging the shires. Originally, I was going to suppress them with soldiers, but I feared this would cause harm to the people. I have therefore sent Marshal Chen forward with this amnesty. On receipt of it, the bandits must turn over all their money, grains, weapons, horses and boats to my officials, destroy their lair, and be led into the capital. I will then pardon their crimes. If they lack conscience and oppose this decree, I shall dispatch troops and wipe them out, young and old. Let this amnesty be proclaimed so that all may know." End quote. The hall of the Hao Han was in an uproar when this was announced. Li Kui leapt down from the rooftops and snatched the edict out of the emissary's hands, tearing it up before his eyes. He then punched the emissary in the face. Song Jiang pleaded with his brothers to calm down and instead enjoy the hospitality of the emperor by drinking the wine gifted to them. When the wine was tasted, it was discovered that the wine sent from the emperor himself was in fact of poor quality. Perceiving this as the worst insult of them all, the bandits were whipped into a murderous frenzy. Only by the forceful pleading of Song Jiang did the envoys escape with their lives. Their hopes for amnesty now lay in tatters, and war was now coming to their doorstep. The emperor twice sent army expeditions against the bandits, but due to the hostile terrain and the bandits' expert use of their marsh navy fleet, the imperial troops had no way of defeating them. This time, the emperor ordered Gao Qiu himself, the arch nemesis of many of the Hao Han, to personally direct the expedition against the bandits. Once again, through cunning tactics and effective use of their terrain, Gao Qiu was defeated and then captured. Again, despite all the suffering the bandits had gone through at the hands of these corrupt and arrogant officials, it was still Song Jiang's highest ambition to seek amnesty and serve the emperor, and so Song Jiang treated Gao Qiu well and didn't let him get mistreated by all those that had been mistreated by him. He conveyed his intent to Gao Qiu to once more receive amnesty and honorably serve the emperor. Gao Qiu reluctantly agreed to pass Song Jiang's message on to the emperor. Although Gao Qiu broke his promise to personally give the recommendation to the emperor received the suggestion again through other means and decided it best to once again grant the bandits amnesty. Being treated much better this time around, they distributed the wealth they accumulated, disbanded the party, and Song Jiang became a general in the imperial army with the former bandits under his command. Gao Qiu wasn't content with seeing the bandits safe and prosperous, and talked the emperor into sending them on successive expeditions to hopefully get them killed in action. The Hao Han were sent on 4 dangerous missions, and by good strategy and good fortune, the 108 returned unharmed. The bandits' primary strategist, named Gong Sun Sheng, who had been pivotal in the success of their campaigns, had finally decided that after years on the run, he wanted to retire to fulfill his filial duty to his elder mother. Feeling that Song Jiang's lifelong mission had now been completed, he retired content that their work was now done. However, his leaving would create a fissure in the brotherly bonds of the remaining 107 bandits. This would mark the beginning of their downfall. The next campaign would prove disastrous. Although the band was eventually successful against the rebel army they were fighting, only 36 of the original 108 bandits survived the onslaught. The opponent they were facing was an enemy, not so unlike themselves. They too were led by a charismatic leader who led a group of bandits who had been estranged from society. Cast down and oppressed, they formed a group to oppose the court, no different from what the Liangshan bandits had done. But now that the Liangshan bandits had been officially enlisted into the army, they were used to crush a band of rebels almost identical to how they were in the not-so-distant past, and in the end, the conflict between the two would be a bloodbath. Although the rebels were defeated, the Liangshan bandits' once heroic, indomitable spirit was broken. Their primary love in life was to be in the company of their fellow Hao Han and to live free from the tyranny of corrupt officials and to walk a righteous path. They lived on the outskirts of society in a practical paradise, and in the end, they lost everything. Was fighting a war with other fellow Hao Han rebels the cause of their downfall? Was being an arm of tyrannical rule they so desperately fought against the reason for their demise? Wasn't their greatest joy in life simply to be free from the chaos of the world in the company of their brothers, living in paradise on the margins of society? And didn't they give it all up to follow societal ideals that didn't have their best interests at heart? There's an old saying that goes, the young shouldn't read The Water Margin and the old shouldn't read Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I'll let you think about these things on your own, and you can leave your thoughts in the comments below. In the end, the noble bandits that had been brought together by brotherly love and honor would disband. Almost all of the surviving bandits who had lost what was most dear to them resigned from the comfy official positions they'd been promoted to when they came back from the war, and went back to living a more simple life. Only Liu Zhishen, who had chosen not to join the last battle and retire back to monk life, has a happy ending. He returned to the monastery and attained enlightenment, as the abbot had predicted many years ago. Gao Qiu continued to conspire against the remaining bandits who had remained in the capital serving as officials. When Song Jiang received a pot of wine as a gift from the court, he realized it was poisoned and that the court would no longer tolerate his presence. Recognizing that Li Kui might revolt if the court murdered him, Song Jiang ordered Li Kui to drink the poisoned wine too. Song Jiang said, quote, "You might not know, but the court is going to send me poisoned wine. If I drink, I die. What should I do?" "Rebel, big brother," was Li Kui's answer. Song Jiang waited until the poison started to work on Li Kui and said, quote, "Little brother, forgive me. The emperor sent me a messenger with poisoned wine the other day and I drank it. I am going to die today or tomorrow. I have always strived for two principles of loyalty and righteousness and never strayed. Now the imperial court makes me die for no reason. The court may wrong me, but I will never wrong the court. I was afraid that if I die, you would rebel and spoil the reputation of loyalty and righteousness we earned while acting on heaven's behalf from Liangshan. So I asked you here and also gave you poisoned wine. By the time you return to Runzhou, you will surely die. After you have died, come to the outside of Chuzhou South Gate. It's called Liaoer Flats and looks just like Liangshan. Let's meet the spirits there." Song Jiang's tears fell like rain. Li Kui also shed tears and cried, "Enough! I served you in life, big brother, so I'll become a little spirit brother and serve you after death." The water margin ends with the final deaths of the heroes as martyrs to their cause. Song Jiang dies as a martyr to his moral principles, while Li Kui dies as a martyr to his fierce loyalty to Song Jiang. The two remaining Hao Han, named Wu Yong and Hua Rong, also decided to follow their brethren in death. Promising to meet with the band of brothers once again in the afterlife, they hung themselves and followed their blood oaths to share life and death together as brothers. The historical precedents that inspired the writing of the book was mostly non-fictional events like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. After the events of Song Jiang and the bandits took place, stories of their legend would spread around China. In the early Yuan dynasty of the late 13th century, the Chinese had been conquered by the Mongols. The Mongols in general held all non-ethnic Han Chinese superior to the Chinese, and the subjugation of their people was cause for widespread resentment against this tyranny. It's at this time the story of the bandits' rebellion against the corrupt government became emotionally appealing. Frequent retellings of this story inspired hope that perhaps the martyrs of Liangshan Marsh would deliver them from the hands of tyranny, and 100 years later, in the wake of the return to Han Chinese rule, the patron saints of Liangshan would be deified as the martyrs of justice against tyranny and oppression, the savior of the weak and innocent, and upholders of loyalty and righteousness. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.